So my name is Sunita, and I'm here to talk about how can we deal with some of the maybe uncomfortable feelings that we have, especially right now with Corona, plus being a caregiver to somebody who has Parkinson's. So my journey so far has been that I've done a lot of caregiving. I've done it for my dad, I've done it for my spouse, I've done it for my mother who has drug-induced Parkinson's disease. So before I start talking about feelings, I want to just tell you a little bit about the brain. So the two parts of the brain, I'm not going to get really scientific. There's two parts of the brain. One part of the brain is the emotional brain, and one part of the brain is the cognitive brain. Now, the cognitive brain is full of reason, it's logical, it's critical, and it's very linear. While the emotional brain is where creativity comes from, it's where innovation comes from, it's where feelings come from, it's emotions come from. And knowing this is going to be very important to the journey of being comfortable and being okay with not being okay. And really, that's a journey, and it's not a journey that happens overnight. So I like to call it the RARE journey, and the RARE journey is an acronym. So it starts with the letter R, and the letter R stands for recognizing your feelings. Culturally in India, we're not really brought up being asked how you feel. No one really asks you that. If you do, you just say, I'm okay, I'm good, I'm bad. There's not a lot of feeling words that we use. And even when we do, when we tell our parents, you know what, I feel really hot, they'll be like, no, you feel cold, put on your sweater, you need to drink more hot soup. So even if we do share our feelings, possibly not everyone is actually acknowledged for their feelings. So the RARE journey to being okay about not being okay starts with, do you recognize how you feel? And a lot of times people don't. And often people just give me action words. They're like, well, there's not enough oxygen. There's my mother's acting this way. And those are not feelings words. Those are action words. So I've today shared with you guys a mood meter. And the mood meter gives you a number of feelings, so you can identify how you are feeling today and where you are in the spectrum of things. So my invitation to you is to get up every day and maybe journal and ask yourself, how do you feel today? Ask your family members, how do they feel today? Ask your patient, how do you feel today? Because recognizing how you feel is the first step to feeling okay about not feeling okay and dealing with some of those uncomfortable emotions that turn up. So the second part of the RARE journey, the letter A, starts for acceptance. And say, once you're in touch with that feeling, are you accepting that feeling or are you pushing it away? The more we accept who we are, the more we accept our feelings and are kind and give ourselves self-compassion, we'll be able to progress on this journey. And sometimes the emotional brain is very, very strong. So the emotional brain overtakes the cognitive brain. So for example, if you're feeling out of control, right, the emotional brain will have an outlet where maybe you start micromanaging the nurse. Or maybe you're feeling really frustrated and you don't know how to speak to the patient, and therefore you bury yourself into your work. But the emotional brain needs to figure out how to have a healthy outlet. So this is like when you eat that 4 slice of pizza, your cognitive brain knows I'm stress eating, but the emotional brain reaches for that 4th piece of pizza and put it in their mouth anyway. The emotional brain will always win all times. Yeah. So be aware that you're feeling it and be aware that you can just accept it. It's normal. We're going through unprecedented times and we're having to do these things over the phone and manage our loved ones in really, really unusual ways. The third part of the RARE journey, so it's recognizing how you feel, accepting how you feel, and the third part is deciding to respond to how you feel. So respond would then be the opposite of react. React is you go downstairs, or I go downstairs, I go and see my mother. She has a little bit of dementia. She asked me for the 8th time what's for breakfast because she's forgotten. She's asked me 7 times before that. And I just like pounce on her like a tiger because I feel so frustrated and so angry. But when I go into responding, I stop, I pause, and I reflect, right? And in that pause, I have a bit of time to process and say, okay, Sunita, it's not her fault. Let's not blow this out of proportion. So how can we get to that space? You can only get to that space if you're taking care of yourself. You know, are you giving yourself some me time? The emotional brain needs a healthy outlet. So I told you, right, the emotional brain is where creativity comes from. So maybe you're going to Zentangle, maybe you're going to cook, maybe you're going to go for long drives. You need that time to decompress so that you are actually being able to deal with what's happening inside of you. Another thing would be stay connected to the people who you love. You know, go on virtual calls with no agenda. Just meet up with people who are your friends, have a virtual coffee with your friends. We can't do it face to face. Well, what else can we do? Something else that's going to help is exercise, you know, so the mind is subtle and the emotions, I can't put emotions in a jar. So what can we do with the gross body, right? So do yoga, do exercise, release some endorphins. That's going to help you figure out how can I go from being reactive into being responsive. And that's more appropriate and that's more resourceful both for yourself and the people around you. The last part of the rare journey, and that's really my favorite, is the letter E. And the letter E stands for you can get to elect your feelings, right? And it is a journey. This is not going to happen overnight, right? I'm not going to wake up tomorrow morning and being able to do this. It's taken me years of self-study to get to this place. But I'll give you a quick example. So my son, he failed his French test, and because we do a lot of feeling words at home, I said, well, how do you feel about failing your French test? And he said, well, I feel really embarrassed, and I feel disappointed in myself. I said, okay, well, what do you want to feel? He said, well, I want to feel really proud of myself. I really want to feel like I put in effort. Well, I said, well, what do you need to do to feel that way? So I need to spend 10 more minutes on homework. I need to get in touch with a teacher. I need to look on YouTube, some videos. And he figured it out himself. But the most important lesson there is that he figured out how to go from an unresourceful state to a resourceful state. Now, be aware that I'm not saying any feeling is right or wrong. I'm not saying any feeling is negative or positive. What I'm saying is sometimes it's appropriate and resourceful to be sad because, awful things are happening to the people we love and we should be sad. And at that moment, that's the right emotion. But being scared and when we don't know when everything else is going to happen around us and we get into that freeze state and we can't move is not a resourceful state. So how can you change your state? And the most empowering thing that I've ever learned is that you are in control of your thoughts and your feelings and your beliefs, right? And you can elect that for yourself. So often when I get up in the morning, I look at my mood meter and I say, well, how do I feel? Well, I feel really out of control and I feel a little bit anxious. And I look at the mood meter and I say, well, how do I want to feel? So maybe for the day, I want to feel calm, right? And I decide to myself, consciously, no matter what happens, I am going to feel calm today. I choose to be calm for the rest of the day. So the same situation, I go downstairs, my mother asks me a question, 8th time she's asking for breakfast, and she's like, what are we going to do for breakfast? And because I can stop, pause, and reflect, because I'm taking care of myself and recognizing my feeling and accepting my feeling and choosing to respond to my feeling and choosing to elect a different feeling, I just say a joke. I say, oh, we're all going to a hotel today. Let's go to a 5-star hotel and have lunch today. Because it's a joke, right? Right now we can't go out. So my invitation to you guys is, if anything, just start with recognizing how you feel and give yourself a little bit of self-compassion, bit of self-love, self-acceptance, because when it comes to our emotions, if it takes us to an unresourceful state, then we lose objectivity and then we will not be able to give the best version of ourselves to the people we're taking care of. So I hope that helps, and all the very best.